Hey, David Brewster here with another episode of Chordplay, and this is the chords with Michael Hedges. And Michael Hedges really isn't a household name. He tragically died in 1997. So even though there's still a fan base and a group of musicians and guitarists and fans that kind of continue to hold on to his legacy and his recordings and his music and his life. Um, he is kind of a forgotten hero, I guess, in a lot of guitarist circles and music circles. And he was a very interesting person, a very interesting musician, very avant-garde and very forward-thinking, with his approach to the guitar and to music. And he was very spiritual and he was very eclectic and interesting and a very unique, human being for sure. So if you're not aware of who Michael Hedges was and you haven't really heard him, like play the guitar or haven't really heard his music, I highly recommend, checking out Michael Hedges. This lesson is going to be very different if you've seen any of the other episodes that I've made, or if you haven't really experienced or seen anything related to Michael Hedges and his guitar style. Andy McKee would probably be the closest modern guitarist that kind of emulates Michael Hedges and his guitar approach. And Andy's a great guitarist. So if you're used to altered tunings, we're going to move from standard tuning, which is where I'm tuned right now. All right, I'm just in regular standard. But we're going to move that to Dadgad. And, that's kind of an exotic tuning for some people out there. Now, for Michael Hedges, Dadgad is nothing. So if you're familiar with Dadgad and some open, like, slide tunings, Michael Hedges didn't really hang out there. But the majority of his music was in altered, just completely. To most guitarists out there, they would consider them, just whacked out guitar tunings. Nothing really kind of makes sense in some of those tunings. But that's another, layer of his brilliance and where his mind was, and so far ahead of everyone else around him. I mean, he was such a texturist and purist and just a sound sculptor, where he had such a command and control over the guitar and what he wanted to play and what the expression that he was looking for in his music. So this is honestly the only demonstration I'm going to give during this lesson as far as finding this altered tuning. And then after Dadgad, every example and every kind of chordal area that we're going to explore here is going to be in a radically different tuning. So we're going to move from standard to Dadgad, and then from Dadgad, it's just going to get insane as far as the tuning. So I would highly recommend, with this lesson, if you're sitting there with your guitar and you're wanting to follow along, you're going to have to pause. You're going to have to like pause the video, maybe get a snark or a tuner or something out and tune your guitar and get it stabilized, and then unpause the video and continue, right? And then you'll have to pause and then retune. So I will give you kind of a heads up as far as what tuning I'm in, but there will be a lot of altered tunings in this, just kind of a forewarning. So anyway, to get started, to go from standard to Dadgad, if you're familiar with drop D, let's just go to drop D first. So we're going to move the low E down to D. So now we have D, A, D, right? Now if you're familiar with double drop D, now we're just going to lower the high E string down to a D. We're almost there because now we're in double drop D, so we've got, the low E is down to D and the high E. Right, and just kind of keep monitoring your tuning. But now we need the Gad, right? So we've got G, B, D. So now we just need to lower the B down to A. So just use the open A string to kind of help you get there. Okay, and there's Dadgad tuning. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was still in tune. So it should sound something like that. And when you tune to Dadgad, that's basically like a D sus4 is really what's happening there. right? So if you're familiar with like your open position, you know, sus4, you know, like think of like a D sus4 by adding your pinky there. But we're doing that with the open strings of the guitar. D sus4, right? And that G in the middle is the sus4 note. The rest of that's just regular D, well, like a D5. And then there's your sus4. So think of the song Ragamuffin by Michael Hedges, and that's in dadgad tuning. It's really cool. Right? And now we're going to kind of move along to another tuning, so hold on. Now that we've looked at Ragamuffin, we're going to move to the song 11 Small Roaches, and this song has a very interesting tuning. So we're basically, we're moved away from dadgad, and I've already tuned and kind of checked with my tuner. But we've got C, we've got G, we've got D, we've got G, we've got B, and D. All right, very interesting. And, you know, a lot of people, when they think about, you know, altered tunings, they wonder, you know, like, is this a modal tuning? This is more kind of almost like a chordal tuning, because this would be like a C major 7 sus2. And if you technically wanted to think of like what that sound, like is it a chord or what tonality is that? C major 7 sus2. Hopefully I'm not going to screw this up. Here we go. Right there's some interesting things happening, you know, and the tuning is totally helping that to occur, you know, right there. You know, he's just kind of playing with, you know, like a partial bar, right? And then there he's kind of using, you know, open strings with a, you know, a fretted note, right? And he's just kind of has this melody in mind, and he's found a way to kind of accompany that with, you know, open strings and some select, you know, fretted notes, which it's gorgeous, you know, when you hear that put together. You know, brilliant, brilliant stuff. So we're in this wacky tuning for this tune. The next example is going to have just a slight modification. I realize I'm sitting here playing little pieces of Michael Hedges music, and it's very difficult. So I'm not trying to act like, you know, you should just be picking this up, you know, no problem. But I'm just kind of exposing the tuning aspect. And there's all kinds of interesting things you can do just playing around with these tunings. You know, talk about chordplay. You know, in this tuning we're currently in for 11 Small Roaches, you know, I don't have a clue, you know, technically, you know, how to approach this. The best way to do it is just play, right? You know, there you have really interesting, you know, open strings. There you know, you're going to have really interesting harmonics, right? Rickover's Dream, really all we did is we tuned the high E down to C. So before, you know, with 11 Small Roaches, we had that as a D. But now everything else is the same. You know, we've got the C, we've got the G, the D, the G, the B, and then we're ending on a C. So that one change made kind of a big difference in the sound of the tuning. There's just one, you know, one string difference. And that's one thing I like to do when I go to an altered tuning is I check out the harmonics there first. Before I really start to explore anything else and try to find some chords, harmonics are a good way to kind of give me an altered, you know, view of what's going on here, you know, aside from the open strings. Now with Rickover's Dream in this tuning, Michael's doing a very interesting thing in the beginning, and I want to show you what that is. So in the beginning, he's basically doing 2 pull-offs. All right, and he's doing it without, you know, without picking or anything. He's just doing it as, you know, just raw pull-offs. But the really cool thing is he takes, you know, one of his pick hand fingers. I'm just going to use my index finger. And And he's basically just hovering over the 12th fret. And I'm just lightly Now that's a really interesting technique and a really interesting sound. It's very intricate and very refined. You have to really kind of get in there and start playing with it to really get a feel for it. But once you do, it's really, really cool. And there I'm just basically doing this. But with the harmonics, assisted there at the 12th fret, the pull-off is happening, and then the open string is sounding, but it ends up becoming a harmonic there. Right? And you can play with that all the way down. Which is really cool. And Michael did a lot of that, where he would basically, kind of reverse the hands in a way, or the role of the hands. Because normally you'd think of a harmonic and your right hand or your pick hand would strum, and then your fret hand or left hand would, be fretting somewhere over, hovering over some note point, on the guitar. But this is the opposite there, because now we're applying a harmonic with the right hand, and then the fret hand is making that harmonic happen. So he does that with single notes first. And then he starts doing it with like double stops. Well, not necessarily double stops, but I guess sixths. And then he just starts basically doing like open string pull-offs there. And then he's got this and there I really love the transition there between chord and harmonic mixed with a droning open string, which kind of functions as a chord right there, of course. It's so cool. So Rick Over's Dream is awesome, and there's a great live performance of him playing that on YouTube. But check that song out. That's killer. So for the last example here, this is from the song Layover, and I love this song. But the tuning is super bizarro. If you thought the other tunings we've looked at so far were weird, this one really doesn't make any sense, and it's separate from the previous three, which the previous three songs and tunings are kind of closely related. We were just kind of moving the B string around, for the most part. I guess the high E string too a little bit. But this tuning seriously doesn't make any sense. We've got D, A, C, G, C, E. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense. If you want to think of like a chordal reference, it's like a C6 over D. Which technically, like pedal steel guitars, they're normally kind of tuned to sixths, and that's kind of common for pedal steel. They're not usually like tuned to a slash chord though, like this, which is weird. The part of the song we're going to look at is the opening, the very beginning, and he does this really cool kind of arpeggio harmonic cascade. It's really cool the way he ends that part with a harmonic and a fretted note simultaneously. And he's really just kind of tracing this little harmonic pattern and allowing it to kind of ring, That's so cool and very expressive and unique and interesting. It's just different. And obviously the tuning kind of helps allow that to happen. Because in standard tuning, you wouldn't be able to hit those harmonics that way. But try some of these tunings and just kind of experiment with some of these different sounds. And please subscribe to Late Night Lessons. And I'll be sure to create some more Chordplay and 3-for-all and some other content for this channel very soon. So thank you, and take care. And check out some Michael Hedges and some alter tunings. Thank you.